Hi guys. I've been following the case of Renee Good shooting death by ICE agent, and then the case obviously is still evolving. But I'm just glad to learn that yesterday we had a U.S. District Federal Judge, uh, Catherine Menendez, I believe her name is, and basically says that for any peaceful, unobstructive protesting, ICE should not apply even non-lethal munitions against them. As long as the people watching it, following the agent, by keeping a distance, not blocking their way, not grab the alleged illegal immigrants, then that should be okay. It's still a fair game. It's part of a civil rights to do that for community. I actually um, keep thinking that if this is a people, taking the um, government action in their own hand, it's actually a very good thing. We don't have that many people in the world, in other countries, that care enough, even though it's not their business. They still want to get involved. They still want to keep our eyes on the government's actions. That's a treasury. That's really what makes this country great and strong. Okay, and I'm gonna, I want to mention a few things that other than this latest ruling. Of course, the Department of Homeland Security has been criticizing this ruling, but then I think when the case comes, there are a few issues that we need to consider. The first one is that the Department of Homeland Security (DHS) has been, and including the Vice President J.D. Vance, and also obviously the President Trump, they were just acted too fast without waiting for the investigation to complete it. They just claim that this is an act of domestic terrorism, and that's just too fast, too impatient. I think the government should set up an example to respect the laws, respect the fact until the investigation has been completed or at least coming to a stage. You can easily say, the government agents can easily say, at this point, we have no comment, waiting for the investigation. That would be safe and legitimate and responsible government actions or comment. Instead of calling that, put a label on it and then say that this is domestic. I think in the Minnesota case, I've read some, like I said, I've been watching this event to involved in the development, and then I noticed that in the school that where Renee Good was teaching, they've been doing something like civil disobedience. I think that's the most appropriate label for their action. What is a civil disobedience? Think about the Rosa Parks back in 1960s or 50s. She refused to sit on the back of the bus, even though the law says so. So this kind of a very good example. So basically, the Rosa Parks are willing to be arrested, but she's fighting for injustice, and then it turns out that the law was wrong, and then she was right. So I think this is a case. Obviously, um, Renee Good was acting the same. Although I have to say that everybody can admit that there is some risks involved in civil disobedience. But I don't think that's a domestic terrorism. I don't think if you watch the videos, so far I've been watching many different videos. I think the Jonathan Ross, his own camera doesn't tell us what really happened. Other videos, other third parties tell us that at the time he was shooting, and then the Renee's SUV was turning away from him instead of run into him, like Trump says that Ross shot in self-defense. I don't think that's the case. Okay. Um, when obviously, if the car is running over him, he cannot possibly shoot from the side windows. Okay, the driver's side windows. Okay, that's where the at least two bullets went through. Okay, and then the other thing, the other issue is that the de-escalation. I believe even the DHS has been teaching the agent for avoid unnecessary escalation. But if you by sitting, if I mean, even if that Ross was sitting right in front of the vehicle, that would be kind of making the situation worse, right? Because you're sitting, standing right in front of the vehicle. It basically, put yourself in a dangerous situation, and then that's not as smart as you uh, step aside. Okay, and then there's also several issues about the Ross. I mean, number one is that the DHS, was given the June 2025, Ross suffered um, some injuries, internal bleedings. Okay, and then basically DHS put him right back where he was, pretty much after in hospitalization. This time we have reported saying that Ross suffered internal bleeding. And however, based on the report I have read, you know, he was admitted to the hospital, but then basically released the same day. I don't think that would be, there was no. It's possible that they want to do that to make that real, make the DHS claim of self-defense justified. But so far, we don't have a strong evidence to support that he was actually injured by the Renee Good SUV, Honda SUV. The second issue is that he really should be subject to mental health evaluation. A PTSD, for example. Given that he in June he had a injury, so there may be some internal hatred, you know, that in his mind he's really rather looking for something to revenge. Um, and then, just looking at the video, you can see that he's calling Renee after shooting. He called Renee, using the F word and call her bitch. So those kind of a thing. It's unprofessional. I really think this guy should be, temporarily replace him to somewhere else, less, heated the place like in Minnesota, the Twin Cities. That would be safe measure for the department oversight. I don't think that part is there. There should be, and instead they called Ross a hero. That's too much. I believe that before the investigation is completed, you don't want to rush that to label someone either domestic terrorism or hero on the other side, and then that's not the way to handle it. That's a poor leadership in my opinion. Okay? The other thing is that we have that one report I see that I actually look at that this morning by Grok. Um, and Grok so far gave me a very good information. Claude is kind of disappointed because they said that they don't have any information on the Renee Good case because their data stopped in December 2025. But anyway, so Grok was doing a good job, and he mentioned a little details that after the shooting of Good, okay, Ross basically just walk away from the thing, and then nobody from the ICE part even called 911. And even though they have been trained for CPR, they've been trained for emergency medical services, none of them uh, applied to Good. And then there's one little detail that there's one guy on the scene identifying himself as a doctor and ask for help, and the ICE says no, we don't need that. They either said something like either we have our own medicals, or we don't need that. So that delay, like about 10 minutes, is crucial. It makes a life and death difference. Okay, and also Ross, the shooting, the first shooting is, you probably even say, even though that his first shot was like a self defense. The next is two, at least two, maybe someone say maybe have a four wound, four shot. Uh, but let's just say assume that the three shot all together. The next two, it's not necessary. Okay, because the threat of the life threat, even if Ross was under the life threatening situation, as soon as he fire the first shot, the threat is gone. So the priority then is to turn to humanity treatment of the wounded person. We're talking about the humanity. We talk about the humane. Um, so this is it's really going too much. And then there's so many other issues, like JD Vance was talking about the federal agency absolute immunity. That's absurd. I don't think that anybody should get a absolute immunity. Especially for um, except for a few people like judges, or prosecutors, and then legislators. So many issues. I just want to say that we can do a better job to prevent this really happen again. It's a tragedy. We should feel sorry. Some people's life was such a young life, let's say under 40 years old, and a mother of three. It's really sad. I really hope that justice will be served in this case, and then we all, more importantly, we all learn our lessons from this tragedy. Okay.